Sure. So my name is Joseph Williams, and I am the co-founder of IAM Health Cloud. Uh, Before this, I spent 2 years at Amazon, where I was previewed to many customer pains. And IAM Health Cloud is actually created based on many of the repetitive customer pain that I've actually witnessed while working at Amazon and before. So the whole idea of IAM Health Cloud is to provide you real-time data across any number of AWS accounts in a single pane of glass and in a way that it's consumable. Uh, you can actually make sense of it. And if you know anything about the cloud, then you know that the speed of the speed that data comes in is unbelievable. And so it really takes a special platform to make sense of that data. And that's what IAM Health Cloud is.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joseph. That's a great introduction. And the company IAM, Identity and Access Management. Can you tell me, are you looking at this purely from a security lens? What are kind of the key pillars of complexity that you talk to across an organization?
So originally this started focusing on identity and access management. Uh, and the reason for that is many people come from a physical infrastructure background. And when you move to the cloud, it gets complicated because you can no longer stand in front of your physical server. You kind of lose a lot of that visibility that you once had in a physical server environment. And so IAM Health Cloud allows you to somewhat gain that visibility back, because in the cloud you can't actually go to the data center. It's everything is remote, and like I said, you can't actually walk up to the servers anymore. And so this is akin to uh, getting visibility over those servers and who has the access to them. And unfortunately, this is one of the most overlooked areas uh, when companies move to the cloud. They focus on things like OS level access and things like that, whereas hypervisor level access, which is essentially what you get when you are managing cloud infrastructure, is extremely important. And I would argue maybe even more important than OS level, because at this point you have the ability to virtually disassemble servers and mount drives, and with the right permissions decrypt drives and literally do whatever you want. And so this is something that should be taken very seriously, and definitely not overlooked. And that's what we do. We help organizations smoothly migrate to the cloud, and also keep an eye on these very important aspects that are often overlooked with identity and access management in the cloud.
Good. Okay, so that's a great segue really into sort of the heart of the topic we're going to discuss in this webinar. Is look at why the traditional methods that organizations have been using to kind of manage their AWS estate have failed, and certainly when we put a cyber and defensive lens on this, what are the things that we're seeing that you are changing, and what is that shift, and what is the business impact of doing that, and then obviously helping them address the benefits from that. So looking at taking the IAM side of things and the visibility that gives in terms of provisioning and identifying the risk, the things that fall out of that, for example, things like cost management as well. So we kind of break that down into cyber posture, risk posture, and commercial posture. You've got some great wins here. So we'll touch on those as well. But let's just kind of go back to the way that you kind of focus on this at the moment. You talked about the reason that you exist, but can you give us some real life examples of organizations you work with that are actually starting to sort of take this forward?
Sure. So a real life example here, uh, many times companies acquire other companies, And these companies, they may have their own AWS environments, each one of them, and they're you still need to get visibility over all of them, and it becomes a problem when you try to do that if you have things like fragmented AWS organizations, which, by the way, is a logical grouping of AWS accounts. But see, what ends up happening if you have multiple fragmented AWS organizations, it becomes very hard to get a single pane of glass to have visibility over who has access to what. And you have to think about it. I mean, everything is at stake depending on what kind of a business you are. You know, no matter whether you have visibility over it or not, And so that's why this is so very important, and that's why IAM Health Cloud works with multiple fragmented organizations. So, for example, when companies acquire other companies, even sometimes you end up having independent AWS accounts. And regardless, these accounts are still, you know, still a risk. If there, for example, is some kind of a rogue instance or someone, gets access to it that shouldn't have it, it can definitely damage the reputation of the company and also, possibly have a data breach or something along those lines. And so that's why IAM Health Cloud, I believe, is the basic tool that you should start with. You should always start with security. Security should be, in the plan in the beginning, along with identity and access management. And that's what we provide. We provide something that allows you to easily adopt this without having to deal with, consolidating AWS organizations and the complexities that go along with that, along with other business motives that may prevent you from doing that. This gives you a single pane of glass. No matter what your AWS setup is, it just makes it's essentially pushing the easy button and just giving you that visibility.
Great. So you talk about a couple of things there. You talked about consolidation, single pane of glass, and a single view. I mean, the problem that you're addressing isn't a new problem. It's been there since people started using cloud infrastructures. But in our experience, we've seen typically people buy point solutions. They'll either buy something for cloud cost management, or they'll buy, something to sort of focus more around kind of the cybersecurity perspective, or they'll have some kind of audit tool that will do, whether that's inherent within AWS or a third party. In terms of, as you brought that together, what have been sort of the benefits that you've seen of that single pane of glass in terms of actually actionable insights that organizations can take?
Well, for example, having this overall view, you can see things. For example, let's say that you have roles that aren't being used in 90 days. This is something that you typically in an audit you'll see, because you need to review the access of those roles. Well, this is something you can see right on the front, right on the dashboard very easily. You can see roles that are not used. I'm just giving kind of examples here. If you step back and look at a broader example, we also do things like AWS inventory and things like that. you know, it was easy. You can easily identify many ways to save money. As far as your AWS inventory goes, for things like using the newer type instances, you can see you get a large picture of your entire AWS infrastructure from that point of view, and also from a security point of view. You can see things like, for example, accounts that don't have MFA, which of course you could see that. Also, if you have unrestricted policies, if there's a new administrative policy that's created or a new unrestricted policy that's created, you can see the most risky. You can do things like identify the most risky users. You can have real-time access reviews. By the way, all of this data I'm talking about is in real time and across all of your AWS accounts simultaneously. So that's, I just want to give context here, which is very important in the cloud. With the speed of data, you have to have real-time data. And to consume real-time data, you need a platform like this that has, first of all, the ability to visualize all of this data and the ability to use things like natural language processing so that you break down the communication barrier between all of the technical and JSON files and things that are usually uh, a result of pulling things from the API in the cloud. You can get all of that, and you can ask, with your normal language, uh, and do an analysis, which is awesome, especially if there's some kind of event going on, a large scale event or something like that. You can quickly get down to what you need to know and get an actionable plan. You can even use this to help you create that actionable plan and move forward with it. And really, that's what this is designed for. Um, and just to give you some real examples, on the inventory side, a lot of times companies with a lot of accounts will get things like volume warnings, and all they'll be given is the volume ID, and they have to go and find this volume, and it might be in any one of their accounts. And you know, if they don't find it in time, it can fill up, and the EC2 instance can become unreachable, and you might take an outage just because you can't quickly find where this volume is. And and that's how a lot of alerts are delivered in CloudWatch. Um, so this is just an example. One other one would be certificates. Certificates expire often. Sometimes you have third-party certificates that can't be auto-renewed uh, from AWS, and this is an easy way that you can look at all your certificates across all of your all of your accounts and see which ones are going to expire. You can even use the natural language processing and create a plan or a schedule to go and renew those if they have to be manually renewed. Obviously, you probably want to build some automation to do that, but this definitely gives you the visibility over that, so you don't get caught by surprise and take outages and things like that when it's not necessary.
Great. Yeah. Again, totally understand that. There's a few things you touched on there. Buzzwords we hear every day. Artificial intelligence. There's obviously an element of automation in here. But one thing that'd be good to understand is we think about a security or a cyber ecosystem. That any large enterprise may have. It'll have a number of things. It'll have a SIEM, obviously. Event logs, threat management. How does IAM Health Cloud kind of fit into a typical cyber infrastructure? And how
Well,
does it integrate with sort of third-party solutions? Sorry, Joseph, didn't pause. Yeah, and how it integrates with sort of those adjacent solutions.
okay. So I would say IAM Health Cloud complements a lot of solutions, and one thing with AWS in particular, they have this service called CloudTrail Logs, and I mean, CloudTrail logs are awesome. I know from working at Amazon that they're very detailed. The only thing is they're not real time, and this is just kind of the nature of the beast. They're processed uh, in a batch nature, so they're being delivered uh, kind of after the fact. And sometimes when there are large scale events and things like that, you end up in a situation where your CloudTrail logs may not be delivered. I've seen for days and sometimes even as long as a week. And so a lot of solutions do depend on CloudTrail logs, which obviously if you're using a security solution that does depend on that and the logs are delayed for a week, this leaves you in a significant place of vulnerability. And um, one thing that we actually do is we believe in using an active query model. So we are constantly querying the newest data from the AWS API and making sure that you actually know what's going on in real time. And that's very important. I say in the cloud, real time is super important, and it's because the speed that everything can change. You're able to build infrastructures using code and things like that. There's no longer the go and plug this cable in and assemble this. No, it's now, we can tear down environments in minutes, if not seconds, and also deploy them in the same amount of time. And so you have to be able to consume that data. And so I would say that we complement a lot of the solutions that do use CloudTrail logs because we are that early warning system. We are here to show you what's happening now, as far as security. But there's many things that you can look at. For example, we do cost tracking as well. And now this is not meant to take the place of things like cost explorer. What it's meant to do is to let you know when that bad actor has taken control of a particular account and spun up a bunch of EC2 instances. By the way, this is a true example. Something just happened, and created this $50,000 bill mining cryptocurrency or something like that on your account, and you find out the next day. This way you can know in real time, and get alerts that I have, for example, my EC2 cost has spiked, 500% or so, something along those lines. That's definitely a red flag, and one that without a software, you might not find it till the next day, which, it would just be a big mess. And the thing is, with someone having access to your account like that, you know, you're probably lucky that they only decided to mine cryptocurrency because, they could have definitely had more malicious intent as well. And of course, that happens with all the malware and uh, ransomware and things like that. It's just good to know as soon as possible, and that's what we are. We give you that early warning. We let you know in real time when things are not right.
Brilliant. And in terms of, we're talking now about that automation, that early warning. It sounds like IAM Health Cloud is highly customizable to kind of give those alerts and kind of give that insight. Talk me through that a little bit, in terms of how you kind of get to that point of that high level of automation.
Okay, sure. So one thing about IAM Health Cloud, it is located right in the AWS console. It's built using CloudWatch dashboards and custom metrics, so you do not have to leave that console uh, to access IAM Health Cloud. Uh, we do that for security reasons and for convenience reasons. So as far as getting to that level of automation, uh, since it's right in CloudWatch and using CloudWatch dashboards, then we're able to use all of the CloudWatch alarms and all the things that you're used to doing in the AWS console. All those can be used here. We can create a CloudWatch alarm, for example. Everything's fed in as a metric. So if something uh, if something is off or past a threshold, you can definitely get an alert that way. And all of this will have to be customized, but it's something that can be done uh, very easily using native AWS tools in CloudWatch. You could even go and do automation. For example, you can trigger lambdas and do automated remediation of different kinds of threats and things like that that are identified. The whole idea is to bring all of this right to the console. Uh, the whole resource can be permissioned using IAM uh, policies, just like any other AWS resource. We wanted to make sure that this is something that AWS architects can take and use as a platform to build automation, not have to learn any additional tools or anything like that. You can do everything with AWS native tools. We want to make it as simple as possible, but at the same time give you the benefit of this real-time data and real-time analysis by the natural language processing and machine learning that IAM Health Cloud brings.
Great, brilliant. Thanks, Joe, for that. And just thinking about the users, the people who actually get hands-on with IAM Health Cloud, what are the sort of typical personas? I mean, I guess obviously AWS cloud architects and cloud engineers, but who else sees value from actually interacting with the platform on a daily basis?
Well, definitely definitely cloud architects. I would say that cloud operations as well. Just given the example of having to always go and uh, look for different things. This it's always great to have everything in a single pane of glass. Anyone who's had to log into hundreds of accounts or even do assume role from the organizational master account to all of the other accounts, and this just becomes uh, it just becomes kind of an activity that is unnecessary, because everything should be in one place that you can easily access, search through, analyze, and that's what we provide. I know there are other solutions out there that do that, uh, provide some things like that. I would say that a lot of them are, for one, not using the natural language processing, so you can't interact with it as easily. And the other is they're not providing real-time data, which is super important here, especially with the way that things are changing. I would also argue that the natural language processing and AI is also important here because as uh, as time goes on and AI becomes more prolific, so do the threats that it can create. And to detect some of these kinds of threats, it's also good to have AI on your side as well. You can detect things that may go unnoticed. And I've actually written a lot of blog posts about this as well. Um, share some of that with Neil near the end if anyone's interested. But I have lots of real life scenarios where uh, this has been very very important and saved a lot of money and time. But to go a little bit further with this, uh, other people that would be interested in this, I would say that cloud economist, because having this whole view of your infrastructure, you can see things. For example, you can see that you might be using older type instances. So we can look at all the accounts, and for example, let's just say you're using something older like an M4 and M3 type instance, and just for example, the newer type instances will will be cheaper, and so this is easy money that's being left on the table. Uh, but to get this view, you have to have this single page view to get the whole picture here. We can look at things like EFS volumes. EFS volumes are fairly expensive, and we can look at it from a security perspective. We can see that, whether they're encrypted or not. Maybe, for your compliance standard, maybe they should be encrypted. We can see them all, right there, very, very simply. And, this is, just a real life example. We did a proof of concept with a customer. Uh, in that proof of concept, we just had 3 accounts. And within those 3 accounts, using IAM Health Cloud, we were able to identify over $1 million in annual savings potential using non-invasive uh, methods that would not impact their production at all. And and that's what this is about. It's about getting that visibility, whether it be from an inventory perspective, from a security perspective, from an operational perspective, we need to go and find information quickly, to make important decisions. And from an analytics perspective, where you want to do things like find the riskiest account, you want to find your low-hanging fruit and be able to have actionable do things that are actionable that can actually improve your security posture, things like that. I mean, that's what this is for. And so I'd argue that this many different types of people will definitely benefit from this. From business to security to operations. I mean, there's something there for everyone.
Brilliant. And you mentioned a few really interesting points, which we'll come back to at the end, but things like proof of concepts, return on investment, that's all kind of part of the journey that an organization goes on to really get to grips with the value that IAM Health Cloud can provide. And we'll talk about that kind of more in the sort of the closing steps of this in a few minutes. But Joe, you also mentioned about there's other capabilities out there, other tools that do kind of parts of this, and organizations either go best of breed or they have capability gaps. I know you'd prepared just a few things around really what differentiates IAM Health Cloud. If it's okay with you, if I share those slides, perhaps you can just kind of give us the highlights of some of these things, if that's okay.
Sure.
There we go. So I know you've touched on, so I don't feel that you need to repeat, but just some of the things that you think really worth teasing out in these will be great, because we'll obviously share this with everybody and they can get a real taste for themselves.
Okay. All right. So we've already talked about the single pane of glass, which, by the way, is very important. Also, to have it in the AWS console using CloudWatch dashboards. Whole idea is to not move this out to any kind of third-party interface. Make sure it's secure and protected by authentication to the AWS console. Real-time access reviews. So real-time access reviews, we talked about that. So most organizations are going to use single sign-on. So they're going to get their permissions via some kind of role mapping that they have. And so the whole idea here is to make sure that those roles have the least privilege necessary to do whatever the task that role is supposed to be doing. And so that's why we provide up-to-date real-time access reviews, along with the active query model, which is part of the real time, because you have to get the latest permissions from the API. You always want the latest information. Information in the cloud. After it's already happened, then you might could use it for some kind of investigation or something like that. But what's important in the cloud is what's happening now. You need to know as soon as it happens. But to go back to that, the real-time access reviews is a real-time access review for every role and every user. So sometimes you still end up having IAM users in the cloud for service accounts and things like that. And those are super critical to make sure that you keep control over those. Maybe maybe you have some software that's running on a service account using an IAM user or something like that, and maybe you don't need it anymore. Maybe it stopped running, but the permission's still there. Well, this helps you identify all of that and gives you kind of a call to action to go and review these permissions on these various IAM assets. Now, let's see. So AI-driven analysis, we talked a little bit about that with the natural language processing. We also have anomaly detection. The system builds a profile on our users and roles. So if they start doing unusual things that they don't usually do, then you'll be alerted on that as well. So that's definitely helpful, just to see those kind of nuanced things that may happen, that may go under the radar for human monitors, but this is something that definitely can be detected, and we should be paying attention. And also in real time, that's the whole thing here is, it's just not possible for a human to consume all this information in real time and make actionable get any kind of action from it, actually be able to do anything about it. See comprehensive risk and health scoring. So one thing about IAM Health Cloud is we do provide a risk score and a health score. Now, this health score is exactly what it sounds like. As you follow the recommendations of the software and improve your IAM posture and security posture, you'll see that your health score will go up and your risk score will go down. Every single user, role, and asset is risk ranked. So this helps you identify problems kind of on an individual level for all of your AWS assets. And so, I mean, that's definitely helpful just to help you focus on the things that are important, because there's a lot going on, and we believe in cutting down the signal to noise ratio. We want to make sure that you have as little noise and the highest quality data and actionable data. You can spend more time doing things that actually matter here, as opposed to doing things that a computer could be doing, repetitive tasks and things like that. The aim is to make, your life easier by giving you a tool that puts you in control and saves you a lot of time. Let's see, advanced unusual behavior detection. Yes, we've covered that. So if you would, Neil, please go to the next slide.
Is that sharing? Is that the? Can you see that, Joe? Is that just changed?
I think that's the same one.
For some reason, I think for some reason it's not moving on to the next slide. So the 4 topics on this one is the streamlined compliance management. Is that not sharing for you, Joe?
Yes, I see it now.
Okay.
That's right. So streamline compliance. So one thing that we didn't mention here is we have the ability to do one-click compliance. So for example, you can do things like SOC 2 compliance checks, HIPAA compliance checks. I mean, there's many more built in, and it's in the context of your own data. It's not giving you, for example, generic kind of best practices. It actually looks at the data itself and gives you actionable items based on the data uh, that you've provided. So for example, if we were talking about EFS volumes, we could do a SOC 2 check on those. And in the context of that data, it would provide the best practices, and also actionable items that are specific to that data that you should correct, or you should be prepared to justify if doing an audit. And really, it's capable of doing about any kind of compliance check, because you can, if it's not a one-click compliance check, you can actually ask the system to run any kind of compliance check that you would like. And it will give you the analysis and the recommendations. You can do things like have it create an executive summary. If you needed to do some kind of report, you could have it create an executive summary. You can create a custom, for example, CSV file, add an executive summary, graph out, provide visualization for certain aspects of it. It allows you to create all of this right in the AWS console and download them, to use it. It helps you save a lot of time when you're creating your reports. Which is very useful, especially with analysis and things like that. Let's see, so next we have IAM resource optimization. Okay, so that is something that is also not often looked at. So we pay attention to things like limits, things like that. And the worst thing in the world is when you go to deploy something and you're deploying something that's going to create, for example, some additional roles or something like that, and you end up hitting a limit here, and your deployment fails, and maybe you take an outage, maybe you don't, but this is something that helps you get a handle around that and understand what your IAM usage looks like. Let's look at multiple roles, and maybe you have roles that are essentially doing the same thing. Maybe these maybe these can be consolidated without adding any extra privileges and still follow the least privilege model. This gives you that kind of analysis to help you optimize the usage of your IAM resources. And let's see, okay, we've already talked about the fragmented AWS organization and independent accounts. So essentially, IAM Health Cloud doesn't have limits uh, on the kind of AWS accounts it will work with. It can work with AWS organizations, independent accounts, multiple AWS organizations, all at the same time, giving you all this in a single pane of glass, and have it so you can use all of the facilities that the application has. And it has things like search functions and global search, and of course AI analysis. You can do a custom column. You can customize the columns and really create a custom report, and then or you could ask the AI to do it as well, which is always an option, and kind of tweak it until you're happy with it. And as far as being a robust solution, just kind of talking about IAM Health Cloud on the back end, we've made sure that we have we stuck to the most basic AWS core services. So on the back end, we're using things like EC2 and like S3, and and of course IAM, but the basic services to make sure that in large scale events that we're able to, for one, continue to provide you this information, because it's critical in that at that time, more than ever, because any bad actor would likely want to take advantage of that kind of situation, because if you have a large scale event, and it's also being shared with everyone that it's a large scale event, then systems are compromised, and maybe everything is not working as expected. And so that's why we make sure we stick to the basic core AWS services, and we do multi-region by default. Another thing is we are able to do and meet data residency requirements, which is an important thing as well. Your data will remain in the regions that you choose. So that's also a configuration that we can support. But the whole idea is to provide something that works regardless of what's going on, whether a region might be having issues and things like that, because that's when you really need it, and that's when it's most important to continue providing information.
Brilliant. Joe, that's been a really fascinating insight into IAM Health Cloud. We've got a few minutes left, so I'm just opening this up to see if there's any questions from any of the audience. So we'll leave that open for a moment, see if anything kind of comes in, and I'll ask you those questions. I guess though, what we're going to leave people with is kind of call to action, next steps, and how to engage with us. So from that perspective, it's really straightforward. I think what I would say to anybody, if managing your Amazon Web Services estate is a challenge that you've got, whether it's from a compliance perspective, a security perspective, or cost management, then it's definitely a case of reach out to us. We'd love to have a one-to-one conversation with you. As Joseph said, we've got customers in proof of concept stage at the moment. The typical journey that a prospect would go on is take that first look, really trying to understand the business benefits aligned to the use cases and the business challenges that you've got. And then from that, a few things happen. One is we really want you to help understand the business value of using IAM Health Cloud. So being able to provide some insight and analysis in terms of what the outcomes could possibly be. Obviously, the key thing is the ability to get hands-on then with the platform. And Joe, you already mentioned about sort of using proof of concept as a way of doing that. But of course, any advice and guidance that we can kind of give you on this, we're here to do. But Joe, just while we leave this open for another minute for any questions, perhaps you can just really summarize for us, just in a couple of sentences, what IAM Health Cloud is going to do to transform the lives of our audience.
So essentially, IAM Health Cloud, it provides you first of all, it's going to provide you the visibility that you need across all of your accounts. You know, the level of visibility that you should have across your accounts. That's what IAM Health Cloud provides, and it provides you analysis and the ability to make custom reports and things, and be able to detect when when your environment is compromised, with real-time data, using which is most important, providing real-time data of what's going on uh, in your cloud environment, and data that you can consume in a meaningful way and formulate actionable plans based on. That's what it's really about here. To understand who has access to what and whether they should have access to it, uh, and help you get all of that in order. No matter how many accounts you have, be it hundreds or thousands, this is the kind of visibility that you need, and that's what we provide.
Brilliant. Joe, thank you. That's really helpful. So there's been no additional questions, so we look forward to the follow-up. So within the next 24 hours, everybody will receive a copy and a link to the recording. Obviously, our contact details on there to invite you to reach out and connect. At the very least, Joe will share your blogs that are very, very informative, and obviously the LinkedIn content that you generate. But from us, we'd like to thank everybody who's taken the time to attend today. We wish you a great rest of the day, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Neil.